Welcome along, folks, to Chaps Many Cultures, episode 191. We're so glad you're here from wherever you are in the world, from wherever you have been moved in the world, which brings us to today's topic about global mobility and the folks that do such a great job to support it. We're going to talk about them and how perhaps we could use some little bit of cultural competence in amongst all that great work. Stick around. Yes, we just happen to be back. The #1 show of the business of culture and the culture of business. Tuesday, episode 191, Two Chaps, Many Cultures. G'day, pal.
How are you? Welcome, everybody. Another episode, 191. It's getting better. It's getting better. We're getting better. That's awesome.
It's getting up there.
And they haven't moved us from the towers yet, so...
No, they haven't. Well, you know, just like everybody, if we just pay our bills and their rent, then we should be able to be here and nobody will notice we're here.
All right, good. Global mobility is the topic we want to discuss today. And here's a funny thing I learned about global mobility. I didn't know it was a thing until I started doing what we do, cultural training, coaching. I didn't know that there was a global mobility industry. I learned new acronyms like RMCs. And I was in meetings when people were throwing these acronyms, or, oh, we got to talk to those RMCs. And I thought, what the hell are they talking about? What is an RMC? So for those of you who are also wondering, it's a relocation management company. I didn't know what that was for a long, long time until I realized that there are big box service providers who manage everything and anything around a relocation. So I have this habit of staying abreast with my industry and the work that I do and clients that I serve. So I have all these Google News alerts, and one of them is global mobility. And the funny thing is, I get news alerts or headlines with the Google News alerts about electric vehicles and railroad systems being built and everything about moving things, right? So I realized, oh, that terminology of global mobility may be confusing to some people because some people may give it a different meaning. So I thought, now that I learned what global mobility is in our industry, the moving of employees around the world with all the stuff that they need in order to move somewhere, and stuff could be other people, right? That there is another connotation to the term global mobility. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about electric vehicles. We're not talking about your aircraft systems or your most efficient railroad machines. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about global employee mobility, right? Just to get that out.
It turns out, growing up on a diet of, Star Trek, that teleporting had never been invented, really. Didn't exist. No. So therefore, people just didn't magically appear in another country with all their stuff.
That's not a thing?
Go figure. There are actually wonderful professionals in this work that handle this, that handle all this. The moving parts are unimaginable. I mean, I think... I don't know whether I'd be set up for it quite well. You'd have to have a really superpowered level of knowledge of how to manage these things. And we've got Patricia here. Good afternoon, Patricia, from, I hope it's sunny Florida today. Ms. Globalicious joining us from sunny Florida.
And I learned another acronym when I entered this field of cultural training and coaching, because it has to do with moving and mobility as well, so I thought, but it's kind of twisted. It's global mobility humor, I believe. But one of the foundational researchers, one of the godfathers of cross-cultural comparison, is a gentleman, or was a gentleman, he passed away recently, from the Netherlands. His name is Gert Hofstede, and he began his research, his cross-cultural research, at one of the truly global companies at his time, a company called IBM. And I learned in the mobility industry that IBM is an acronym that doesn't necessarily stand for, I think, International Business Machines. It stood for what the people working at IBM who had been relocated multiple times explained to me. It means I've been moved. So a lot of people working at IBM know that. Have you never heard this one?
No, I've not heard that.
Corny mobility joke.
That is a mobility. Well, speaking of, Patricia says global mobility is scary to many. I guess that's another definition of, we're thinking, if you live a life of global mobility, if you are somebody who is comfortable living in or has presence, homes, some type of anchor. Anchor's a wrong word because I don't like using that. It denotes that you are stuck. But I think that some kind of
means that you're holding place for now.
Yeah, absolutely,
anchor.
Absolutely. So it is sometimes for families, especially if somebody's kind of developed this ability to be able to speak many languages and live in different areas. Their family might look at them and think, why can't you just settle down? Why can't you just settle down one day? But no, Patricia, I don't think she's with somebody who will settle down, and she will inspire us always to be globally mobile. But I had an experience, speaking about these RMCs, of being invited to an RMC once. And because what we provide in terms of the cultural competence, and we're talking about the cultural aspect of providing these services today, I guess what we do is kind of seen as something that is relatively small and something.
Martini, there you go.
Yes, and so I guess there was a curiosity of that RMC to develop some knowledge with the people, the great people that were doing this work of the actual logistics, to give them some insight in what we do. So I got to present this information with the kind of, I guess, a little bit of an ignorant preconception that they all got it. They all understood it. Because these are all wonderful people from different parts of the world that spoke many languages and interacted with people from all around the world. But then to truly just kind of put a framework or demonstrate how we work with the clients was something of a revelation for them. And it gave them the tools not only to speak to their clients about what we provided and the value of it, but also it gave them a pause to reflect on, am I actually being culturally competent when I interact with these people from all around the world? And how can I maybe think about that when I'm delivering information and communicating with them, which is what we kind of want to gently suggest, that if you're in this field, that you think about that. That's a really powerful thing to be able to put in your toolkit, I guess.
And Patricia says, RMC, what does each letter stand for? I'm sure she's asking this not for herself, but for the audience, as we know that she works closely with one of these RMCs. RMC stands for, we said it earlier, Relocation Management Company. There's many out there, many of them doing great work, as Brett said, and they're handling many of the logistics or support aspects that come with moving people or organizations or teams across the world. What I noticed in working with relocation companies, not everyone who works for a relocation company works for them in an international capacity. So many of these relocation companies do domestic moves and global moves. And sometimes they might be surprised by some of the hiccups that they encounter with the cultural aspect or the linguistic aspect of moving people and goods around the world. I had the pleasure of speaking at several of these relocation conferences, and there's always, let's say, a good 20-25% of the people in the room who are, I would say, intimately familiar with the work that Brett and I, or Patricia, yes, for the audience, the work that we do. But there's also 2/3, 3/4 of the room who have never had any connection to an international move because their work didn't touch that portion of the company yet. And it's interesting to be reminded that the assumption that we sometimes have in the intercultural field, that the RMC people, the mobility people, they, of course, they get all this. Yes, some of them do, not all of them are automatically involved in the Relo project. And I was reminded of that frequently just in the last, I would say, year, with the pandemic and the online virtual communications that we have, including our show, including other shows that we watch online or participate in conversation forums, whether it be on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or now on Clubhouse. There's a lot of people in the global mobility field who are eager to learn about what we do. Right? That's why we called this episode, How Do These Worlds Touch Each Other? How do they complement, benefit, cross-pollinate? We will talk about this in a little bit more detail in a Clubhouse room next week. I should have remembered the date, and I was hoping Brett knows the date. But this is the link where you will find the date. You simply go here. CH doesn't stand necessarily for my name. It stands for Clubhouse_GM for Global Mobility. If you go to that link, you'll find the bookmark, so to say, the calendar entry for that room. It is co-hosted or hosted by people in the mobility industry, Christine Caldwell, namely, and Ben Cross, who both work in the mobility field, who invited Brett and me to talk a little bit about how culture and cross-cultural work is important in the mobility arena. And I think it's fascinating to listen to each other in our respective fields, because there are things that I am not aware of in the logistics or in the support arena when it comes to moving things, right? Household goods or machines for the company, or all the cross-border taxation stuff, the benefits and compensation puzzle piece that goes into a relocation. Brett and I, we might be familiar because we work hand in hand often with the language providers, with the teachers who teach a foreign language to global employees, or maybe with the destination services portion of a relocation where somebody, thank you, Brett, thank you very much. All right. I keep babbling while he does the work in the background. That's true teamwork. Thank you. So as you can see, we want you to be there. We also want you to tell us where you are. Patricia already modeled it for you. Martinique, well, good for you, but there might be some of you who are not in the Caribbean right now. Let us know where you're watching this. Maybe let us know if you moved there, if you have been moved there, or whether you're going to move away from there soon. And let us know your comments, questions, ideas around this. And let us know what you want to discuss in that arena, because the Clubhouse room will be something that is going to be a little bit of a test balloon for both of us to gauge the interest in the global mobility industry and how it touches the work that we do. So, Brett, I'm curious, when you do your training and coaching programs with globally mobile professionals, how much of your work is in connection or in overlap with a relocation company?
Oh, a lot of my work personally is. I interact a lot with them, and I'm, when I've got the opportunity, I like to ask them, how they manage to pull all these strings, because it's, one might, and I know I'm going to upset my great colleague here, but one might think what we do is soft skills. There he is. See it. You can see
no, it's all good.
Yeah, but what we would call the tangible, the things you can see, touch, and feel, right? The visas and the travel arrangements, and the school, destination services, rallying people that are on the ground at the other end to be able to meet with people and support them in their exploration of living arrangements and things like this. These are, and removal companies and packing things properly. I mean, this is really a level of care that these people take on, and I think that they are asked to carry a lot of trust with their clients. And that trust is established in different ways. This is just one example. That trust is established in different ways cross-culturally. So how you show up and establish that credibility with your client can be either through somebody who's very linear and process orientated, or somebody who is really relationship orientated. So you kind of having a bit of an insight or reading the tea leaves a little bit. It takes a little bit of practice. You probably wouldn't do it overnight. I still learn it every day, and I do this for a living. So it's just basically something that I guess will show a level of care as a professional that when you bring that to the table, you're going to, and there's a business case for this, of course. There's a business case that if you provide the very best of care for your client, then that word will get around, and then of course your business or your company, you yourself will get a reputation of somebody who takes that extra level of care, because the costs that go in with these big moves are pretty hefty. You know, the companies are investing a lot of money in these individuals and their families that are going to the other side of the world, or actually even domestically here and, in different parts of the country. But, what we kind of provide in terms of is what I guess yes, there's some initial touch points that we can direct them to in terms of this is what to expect when you get there. It'll either be an adjustment, a topic of adjustment, or a topic of culture of the people they're going to interact with. Or it may be ongoing, but it will have an ongoing effect on this, on success or perhaps failure of that assignment going forward. And so what we provide is kind of relatively low cost. We've got a little bit of a screenshot that we might just share here with you when it comes to this. Excuse me. There we go. Look at that. Bang.
Bang, bang, bang.
Ta-da. There it is, right? And so I guess there is some aspect of these that are risk mitigation where, I guess process stuff like the visas and the moving and that kind of thing is good. But these are kind of what we call a little bit of insurance. People have used the word insurance. It is a little bit of insurance against the possibility of the company, of the family going through any extra level of discomfort that they really need to go through. And that destination service is one of those things. Cultural training is what we do. Language training is another thing, if appropriate. If language training is appropriate and needed in the context of the country.
you should have received some of that before coming to the US. It would have helped you. I know that for sure. But
absolutely,
hey, you adjusted regardless. It took you a little longer, but I'm
still learning the language.
You adapted.
I'm still learning the language.
But here are some of those aspects you see on this pie chart that is all reflected in the global mobility industry, right? The big blue chunk here where it says salary and benefits, obviously that is the chunk of the cost, right? But there are people who do nothing else every day but calculate what are the right ways to compensate an employee overseas, given the new tax burden that will apply to them depending on which location they move from and move to. What will be the level of benefits that we need to continue paying for the employee in their home country so they have continuous coverage or can reap the benefits of whatever system that's been in place at home, and how do we have to adjust the benefits for the duration of the assignment abroad. You see the green piece, the travel piece. Yes, there is travel involved. You have to move the employee, sometimes with a family, across the world, and not only to get them there and return them back home after the assignment. There will be continuous travel throughout. There's home visits. There are look and see trips before they actually go on the assignment to check out the new location, maybe hunt for real estate. So that will be the housing portion, the purple portion here. Yes, you're gonna pay rental or home ownership monies in order to make sure that your employee will be safely housed in the new location. But before we can actually begin the housing process, we need to identify that, right? Who will be the real estate agent? Who will be the real estate expert? Maybe there'll be some temporary housing, some furnished apartments, corporate housing solutions. All of this handled by relocation management companies, right?
Yeah.
The tax cost, what I call here COLA, cost of living adjustment. That is something, there's companies specializing in this, oftentimes as part of a relocation management contract. Brett already mentioned the visa and legality costs of a move. School tuition. How do I prepare an assignee and their family for school-age children? What does that entail? Do we as the company need to take care of private school or public school contributions, financial or non-financial contributions to the local school system on the ground? All of these are questions often answered by global mobility professionals, right? So this is a big pie that accompanies a foreign assignment. It's not just zipping martinis on the pool in Geneva, or flying to Martinique to do your work there, Patricia.
Yes. Not pointing any fingers, but
no, not at all. There's a chunk of work around this, and I think the moving piece is it may look small on this pie chart, really depending on how much and how often you move things, but the logistics of this are enormous, right? We talked about grieving yesterday. There is a loss of a home. Expatriates are losing the home that they're used to in order to make a new home overseas, and a moving company or all the mobility pieces around this contribute to making this loss as bearable as possible, right? So if you're moving parts of a home to another location around the world, you need to keep that safe. You need to protect, like, frames for pictures or a certain glassware that you inherited from your grandparents and you can't live without them, or any type of damageable goods that are inanimate objects, but they mean a lot to the employee. You're not simply completing a task, a logistical task. You're moving people and their things to which they have an emotional connection. And if you don't do this right, there will be a grief for your employee that will make them less functional, less operational, less successful for your organization. All of these are aspects that we, in our field, in cultural training and coaching, we address this as a support system. We help your employees to cope better with these changes and adjustments, and that's why we encircled it as your risk mitigation piece of that big pie, right? You have a choice as an organization. Is that worth my while? Do I want to engage in language training, destination services, cultural training? Do I want to spend that little sliver of a pie extra to ensure that big pie? Or I'm going to be stingy, and am I going to be willing to risk losing the entire big pie, that big investment in foreign talent, that big investment in global mobility features and services, over a cultural mismatch, over a grieving process that is not well handled and not well managed, right?
Yeah, I bring in the I call out the partnership in this, even in the trainings. We talk about because look at, this is actually a big responsibility that the global mobility support people are handling, right? And it is something that we bring in as kind of an integral part, as partners in the relationship we build with the RMCs, other global mobility people. So that's important. And I think, Patricia, if you could, and I saw this because Patricia does a great job of these seminars, so maybe working in the Caribbean is no vacation. I'm open to be convinced. I'm open to the idea that maybe Caribbean is no vacation, or Caribbean, as we say in Australia. And thank you, Lily. Thank you for joining.
Well, keep that up a little bit. Lily is one, I know her personally very well because she's part of the family. Actually, she's my mother-in-law, so I'm going to call her out on this. But
oh,
Lily's
I could get some dish.
Lily works in real estate, right? And she's part of that pie as well. She's part of the global mobility supply chain because she's one of the few, if not the only, bilingual realtor in her footprint, in the geography she serves, right? So that is the cultural piece that you want as a global mobility organization. Any RMC will handpick their real estate agents in a certain area. They're going to look for those who can handle a client that comes from overseas. If you're not a real estate agent who understands the needs of a foreigner, then the task will be harder for you to complete, and the frustration levels will easily rise. If you have a realtor like Lily, that's going to lower your risk or lower your frustration level. So that's why we call this episode Cultural Intelligence Touches Every Single Piece of this global mobility supply chain. And the more you can install that in your global mobility policies and processes, the easier it will be for your employees and for your entire organization. Yes. Thanks, Lee. I agree with you too. Excellent. So how else does your work touch you whenever you get assigned to new expatriates and their training programs? Is there an exchange with the RMC? Will there be an information exchange, or is this something that is now on autopilot because you know them very well, and they and the RMC will basically hand it off without any glitch?
There is a little bit of that. I think what I find is that most of the there is a great degree of, like, I'm moving, I'm arranging other stuff, so you just look after the cultural stuff, and that's part of it. But when I can, gently, and not to annoy, not to be kind of another fly in the ointment, is that I do include, and of course the RMCs like to be copied on communications, but I like to keep them informed of the process and let them see the responses from the people. And of course, we share any feedback on the trainings with the RMC so that they know that we're delivering the quality that they expect. Not to say everybody gets on, and you're going to have a perfect facilitation every time, but the way that we deliver this, we want to be able to get feedback going both ways, so that the clients are comfortable sharing their feedback with the RMCs. They know we're doing a good job at the correct level of expertise and support that we can, which means obviously in our work we're responding to the needs. We did an episode on needs and establishing needs, and is that the right word? Is it just basically establishing the respectful dialogue, open dialogue of what people really are expecting when it comes to cultural training? I think that's another aspect, to keep the RMCs informed as much as possible as to what we are delivering, because they sometimes may be confronted with the question from the clients, hang on, I know what a box is, and I know you're moving this from point A to point B. That's easy. And now you're telling me to do cultural training. No, so what is it? And so the RMC goes, well, I don't really know, but I'm gonna send it to you anyway. And your company has authorized it, and they certainly believe in it, so it must be something. Right. So I think keeping the open communication, being available to answer the questions of the global mobility professional and how they answer the questions for their clients is an important part of that. So
I agree.
Process.
And Miss Globalicious Patricia here brings up an interesting point right here. She says, right now we're dealing with a volcano that erupted, and it's hell for expats on the island of Saint Vincent. I'm not sure if it's an English or a French-speaking island. It's not only hell for the expats; it's probably also hell for the native population, or the people who are locally inhabitants of the island. I think this brings up the question of duty of care, right? So as an organization, even in the global mobility field, part of that logistics also means you have a responsibility to care for those that whose transition is entrusted to you. And how to do that with a globally mobile talent pool is dependent on culture, right? Some cultures will prefer you get really involved in the nitty-gritty, in the tactical application of tasks. Others will simply want to know that there is somebody behind with a watchful eye that they can refer to or call up if the trouble really boils up to a high degree. And it's not just things like the example that Patricia brings here in the Caribbean with the volcano. We're looking, I just had a call this morning with South Africa. There are big bushfires just outside of Cape Town. Lots of expatriates that go to South Africa are located in either Cape Town, Durban, or Johannesburg, right? Or sure, Pretoria as well as the capital city. But the Cape Town is a hub for that international business. And now there's fires, and what do, right? A relocation company, a global mobility management company needs to know how to interact with those that are in their care for the duration of this process. And doing so requires cultural intelligence, because not every client has the same expectations of this duty of care, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And no better example of that was when the pandemic kind of hit us all. There were many people that were looking to be brought home very quickly. You know, there was that kind of level as well. So it's a fascinating field, and we have the absolute highest respect for the people that can juggle all those magical balls in the air, because I'm not sure I'd be up for it. I mean, I'm happy just, I'm in my lane, right? You know, stay in your lane, dude, right? stay in your lane, bro. But I will always sing the praises of the wonderful people that do this. And we are looking forward to meeting a whole group of you, if you are in that field, or others, next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time, 12 p.m.
It's an open forum. So whether you work in global mobility or not, or whether you're in cultural intelligence or not, you might be interested in this topic where these worlds meet, or you might be about to enter this field on either side of the spectrum. If you're on Clubhouse, or if you want to be on Clubhouse, let us know. We might even have some more invites for you to join.
Plenty of invites.
It sounds like the mass media makes it sound like it's a exclusive club of digital snobs. It's not. Let us tell you that it's a budging social media tool where we don't need to show our faces. We can talk openly. It's not recorded. You can be as open and candid as you please. And we'd love to have you there and join us in that conversation.
Fantastico. Thank you very much. We are off to have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you, sir. Another episode 191, Two Chaps, Many Cultures, the #1 show on the business of culture and the culture of business. And we'll be back tomorrow with another random topic that we've just made up on the spec. But because every day's a new day. Every day's a new day. We do wish those that may be having difficulties, location difficulties through some of the natural machinations of Mother Nature, as we say, that Patricia just so alluded to now. And other parts of the world, we hope everybody's safe, and that you do have a big support network that can get you out if you need be, or keep you safe if you don't have to. So just a little kind of wish for you, and thank you very much, sir. And we will be back. Thank you, Patricia. We love you back. We love you back. Absolutely. We love everybody.
I'm not wearing my hat, but I have this hat that's ELE. Everybody love everybody. That is true.
Yeah.
Thank you, Two Chaps.
All you need is love.
Oh no, I was told there was no singing, so
that's going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the day.
All right.
You are welcome.
Yes, I am very welcome. See you all tomorrow. Two Chaps, Many Cultures out for now. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.